If you have already watched this introductory information, you can skip ahead no more than 10 minutes. Hello, welcome. I am predicting that Vice President Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash in St. Louis due to a bird strike into Busch Stadium. In the area code 314, it will be a burning bush, as described in Exodus 3:14, on November 27, 2024. She will be replaced by Michelle Obama, and then Barack Obama will replace Michelle. I am predicting that former President Jimmy Carter will die on November 4th, and that his prophetic funeral, in which Trump will sit next to Obama, will be on November 8th. It is predicted that President Trump will die from a heart attack on January 1st, 2025. It is also predicted that Trump's heart attack will be triggered by a directed energy weapon that will target Trump through Bluetooth technology. The components inside the pointy thing that Trump took will facilitate this, and it is believed that when Barack Obama is sitting next to Trump at Jimmy Carter's funeral, Obama will obtain Trump's Bluetooth MAC address, which will be used to target Trump with a directed energy weapon. I am predicting that dirty bombs will explode in Manhattan, New York City, and there will be a large-scale evacuation on December 16th. I am predicting that Israel will bomb Iran on December 17th. Israel will nuke and completely destroy Damascus, Syria on December 26th, 2024. I am predicting that singer-songwriter Paul Simon will die on November 8th, 2024. It is predicted that after Kamala Harris's death in a plane crash, Joe Biden will appoint Michelle Obama as his vice president. On December 17th, the Democrat Party will use their electoral votes to make Michelle Obama the president-elect. It is predicted that on either December 22nd or 25th, Joe Biden will suffer a stroke. It is predicted that on December 26, 2024, Joe Biden will step down and Vice President Michelle Obama will become the 47th president. It is predicted that on December 26th, Michelle Obama will appoint Barack Obama as the 51st vice president. On January 12, 2025, Michelle Obama will step down and Barack Obama will become the 48th president. His public inauguration ceremony will be on January 20th, 2025. It is predicted that on April 20th, 2025, there will be an outbreak of monkeypox or Marburg disease or both. April 20th will be a symbolic beginning to a new pandemic. June 8th, 2025, the true Feast of Pentecost in the calendar that watches for new moons, will be the day of the resurrection rapture event. It is predicted that on June 9th, the day after the rapture, the key will open the bottomless pit and fallen angels will cross over into the earthly realm. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to the fifth trumpet judgment that is described in Revelation chapter 9, when the demonic realm collides with the earthly realm. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to demons pretending to be aliens, and it is possible that June 9th will be the day Pope Francis will announce that aliens have arrived and have made him the ambassador for the world. This will immediately give Pope Francis, the Antichrist, supreme power over governments of the world. At some point, there will be a massive Mary apparition that will deceive the masses, because all Mary apparitions in history have been demons pretending to be Mary. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to a zombie pandemic and the masses becoming demonically possessed that will be facilitated through the thing, which is the mark of the Antichrist and 5G frequencies. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to the coming genocide politicide in America. It is predicted that on August 6th, 2025, the historic barge that has been stuck on the rocks of the Niagara River for over 100 years will finally break free and crash over Niagara Falls. The reason for this is that Niagara Falls is Noah's flood symbolism, and the barge was involved in the most dramatic rescue in the history of Niagara Falls, symbolic of Noah's Ark. Niagara in the native language means straight, narrow way, and Niagara's Horseshoe Falls is perfectly aimed at the CN Tower in downtown Toronto, because Toronto and its tower are symbolic of the Tower of Babel. In a game of horseshoes, the object is to aim the horseshoe and throw it at the metal stick, which is why the Horseshoe Falls is perfectly aimed at the metal stick that is the CN Tower. God is communicating that as testament for those who will live in the 1,000 years of Christ's reign on earth, the geography of North America will, as a result of a massive earthquake, be divided by a body of water from the Great Lakes to the Mississippi Delta. This destruction will be judgment on America and Canada for attempting to divide God's land, Israel. When this happens, the water in the Great Lakes will spill out over southern Ontario and Toronto. I am predicting that a solar flare will erupt on the surface of the sun and send a coronal mass ejection that will hit Earth on August 13th, 2025, which will knock out America's power grid and will lead to food shortages. The hit of the coronal mass ejection, predicted for August 13th, that will knock out the power grid will also knock many planes out of the sky. I am predicting that on August 23rd, 2025, there will be a catastrophic asteroid hit of Earth, which will trigger the eruption of Yellowstone volcano and will cause the volcano in the Canary Islands to collapse into the Atlantic Ocean and send a mega tsunami towards the east coast. The asteroid will also trigger a mega landslide on Hawaii Island that will trigger a mega tsunami that will hit the west coast. It will also trigger the collapse of the Hoover Dam, which will cause a water panic in California, and many other devastating earthquakes. The day of the Lord, the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ, Judgment Day, will be on the Day of Atonement, October 1st, 2025. The date that this video is posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as do these time-stamped emails and forensic notes PDF documents. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived, and more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. All right, welcome. This amazing diagram here is the story that God has told through the prophetic signs that occurred on July 23rd, 2024. In other words, because of the signs on July 23rd, all of this was revealed. But not only that, these signs actually speak to these connections. These aren't random connections. These connections are what was pointed to with the signs, the prophetic signs that occurred on July 23rd. Now, again, these signs were expected in advance of July 23rd because God was pointing overwhelmingly to this date. And by the way, one connection that isn't mentioned here in this diagram, which I think is profound, and it's just something that I just remembered off the top of my head because there are many others, but this day was exactly 23,000 days after the birth of Barack Obama, the Antichrist basketball president who wore jersey number 23 in high school. And speaking of which, this is the 23rd of the month. Well, anyway, God is demonstrating a trail of signs that is leading to the predicted death of Jimmy Carter on August 1st. All right, August 1st ended up being another very important, amazing step in the trail of signs that is leading to the predicted date that Jimmy Carter will die on August 9th. The signs we received on August 1st are so profound, and it is like this video. Through them, God told another stories, plural. More amazing stories were told and revealed, and through the connections to other signs, etc., through the signs that occurred on August 1st. Likewise, August 5th, because the signs on August 1st revealed adding 4 more days to get August 5th, and likewise on August 5th, the signs in turn revealed adding another 4 more days to get August 9th. Now, I won't say anything more than that because that's the subject of another video, which I have titled the Trump Assassination Prophecy video. Like this video, that other video, the Trump assassination video, must be watched. The amazing information is so important and profound. All right, just to be clear here, this video is about what happened with God's signs in the trail of signs leading to, among other things, specifically the predicted death of Jimmy Carter and what happened on July 23rd. This is extremely important. It's so amazing too. You will be blown away with the information in this video. Just be patient with me as I just explain to newcomers how this works. This is a big picture of interconnected signs. It's an interconnected web, and it is through the interconnected signs that God is able to tell stories. It would be one thing for God to tap someone on the shoulder and say, hey, tell the world that such and such is going to happen on such and such date, but that would give us essentially nothing. What God has done is he is, through his big picture of signs that connect to each other, he's able to tell stories and communicate essential knowledge and information that everyone needs to know. It's amazing. Now, I'm going to talk about what happened here regarding Clint Eastwood and so many other things, okay? But to do that, I'm just going to leave this with you which is that this date ended up connecting on in the trail of signs. Again, this video was produced prior to August 1st, okay? This video goes way back. And actually, that's not even that long ago, but it goes way back because just so much has happened in terms of prophetic signs since then. And anyway, we can see in this diagram that it's leading ultimately to September 26th, but this too ended up being a step in the trail. I won't explain it, but it was the day of Hurricane Helene, which hit the 3 times 9th state, Florida, the 27th state, and 27 is 3 times 9, and this is 39 days to the 309th day of the year, the date it is predicted that the 39th president will die, November 4th. Okay, so November 4th is actually the end date here in the Trail of Signs, the date it is now predicted that Jimmy Carter will die. Okay, and so I'll leave it at that. I'll also just add here that this date here is also valid, August 7th, and it is part of a step, or rather part of a Trail of Signs. It is a step that is leading to the predicted date that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash. And so anyway, when these two dates are talked about here with these connections in this diagram, please know that it is 100% correct. It isn't quote unquote wrong. It's quite the opposite. It is truer than true. Okay? This is how it works though. And the skeptic will say, well, whatever. And I'll say, well, the prediction in the video, the purpose of it is to prove what I am saying. That this is how God's big picture of signs works. They are trails of signs that include very important steps, and it is through these interconnected signs and steps in the trails that God is able, and he wouldn't be able otherwise, to tell very important stories and reveal extremely important knowledge, which is why these videos, all of them, every minute of them, must be watched. One thing to add too before we continue, this date here, October 9th, is a step. God is pointing to this date with connections related to the coming asteroid that will hit Earth, and it won't be this date, it'll be November 23rd. All right, I'm recording this in September. I already know that this will be a step, but all of this analysis is correct. It's extremely important. This is an important step. This is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works. He develops what's happening, what's going on through steps and connected signs, because none of God's prophetic signs can be properly understood without their connections and context with the other prophetic signs. I take that back. I shouldn't say none. I should say the vast majority of God's prophetic signs cannot be fully understood without their context and connections to the other prophetic signs. I know there are some that do not require connections to other signs, but the vast majority do require this. And another thing too, this date here is also a step, August 16th. For the day of the beginning of what would be called many different names, including Aliens Day, the day that demons symbolically begin a mass deception pretending to be aliens. This was actually the date. This date was known without knowing this prior. In other words, this was the day of the release of the new Aliens movie, and August 16th was known independent of that knowledge. So that's one amazing confirmation that this date is actually an important step in the trail of signs leading to Aliens Day, among other things. Revelation 9/11 Day, Revelation 5th Trumpet Day, Seven Thunders Day, demonic realm colliding with the earthly realm day. Okay, so also this date here too was an important step in the trail of signs that's leading to the death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash. August 7th was an amazing day. The signs on that day confirmed all of the analysis, which will be explained somewhere else. Well, I'll just say, although I won't explain much, this was the day that J.D. Vance confronted Kamala Harris at her airplane. In other words, this was a day that was known long in advance to be a Kamala Harris airplane prophetic sign day, and that's exactly what the main big story of the day was. This was when the two airplanes landed at the same time. J.D. Vance's landed in Eau Claire, Wisconsin at the same time, and then he decided to walk over to Harris to try to confront her as she was deplaning her plane on the tarmac. And anyway, there's lots more to that, but we got what we expected, which was a Kamala Harris plane sign. It is now believed it is August 1st, and this is because partly of the signs that occurred on the 23rd, which was a step in the trail. In other words, prior to July 23rd, as other videos have explained, this was the date it was expected that Jimmy Carter would die, but the way in which God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works, which is only being explained on this channel, it works in this concept of trails of signs. Because one prophetic sign isn't enough. The full intended meaning of all of God's prophetic signs cannot be properly and fully understood without their context and connections to the other prophetic signs. And it is through these connections that paint a big picture that God is able to tell stories and reveal important knowledge, because it would be useless, meaningless for God to tap someone on the shoulder and say, this is the date that Jimmy Carter is going to die. That would give us nothing. What would that mean? Other than it be proof for the existence of God. But then, which God? Etc. So this is what God is doing. He's telling these stories through his signs, and that's why this video must be watched. It isn't for only entertainment. It isn't so that we can know when Jimmy Carter will die. I mean, who really cares, really, when Jimmy Carter will die? In terms of prophetic significance, the only reason why it's important when Jimmy Carter will die is because of this story, these stories that God is telling through his big picture of signs, which is only being explained on this channel. And when the prediction comes to pass, the wise person will recognize that they need to watch every minute of every Jimmy Carter video on this channel. Now, I'm going to attempt to tell the story that God was telling through what happened on July 23rd. Bear with me. There is a lot involved here. So to begin with, the first thing that came that was recognized as being a prophetic sign was the senator from the 45th state. The news story was of a hoax regarding Jimmy Carter's death. Okay, so that's amazing in itself, by the way. God was pointing to this date, July 23rd, in terms of Jimmy Carter dying on this day. Literally, this is how its big picture of signs works. It cannot necessarily be known prior to the date that God is pointing to whether it will be the actual event or another step in the trail of signs. And so anyway, God was pointing to this July 23rd date as being the day that Jimmy Carter would die. Now, we don't know if it'll actually be the day or it will be another step. And so that's why it's amazing that on July 23rd, a big news story was the hoax on the internet regarding the death of Jimmy Carter. What made it a news story and prophetic was a U.S. senator quickly reposting the hoax that Jimmy Carter had died. On July 23rd, he reposted the hoax. It was reported that day that this had happened. This was the news story, okay? So it's amazing. We're talking about Jimmy Carter's death, and, well, of course, he's going to die any day now. And by the way, I don't expect the skeptic to all of a sudden convert to Christianity when the prediction for Jimmy Carter comes to pass. I understand the mindset of the skeptic, of the atheist, for the atheist, absolutely nothing is possible in terms of evidence for God, except God standing in front of their face. That is exactly, precisely how the atheist thinks and works. That's how they operate. I've spoken with many over the years, and anyone should know this. They're not interested in evidence for God. The only evidence they will ever accept is God standing in front of their face and telling them that they're God. But even then, they probably wouldn't believe. But that's not the point of God's purpose for this life for us. He intentionally, partially hides himself for the purpose of giving the person the free will to seek him out, which the atheist refuses to do. Anyway, that's the way in which God separates the sheep from the goats, long story short. And, okay, so, but, when the other predictions come to pass, including the prediction that James Earl Carter will die on the day of James Earl Jones. Okay, when the death of James Earl Jones comes to pass, as predicted, on August 5th, on the same day of the predicted funeral of James Earl Carter, Jimmy Carter, that will obviously be for the atheist reason to believe, and any other conclusion other than this being from God will be completely irrational. All right? Same for the predicted plane crash of Kamala Harris, which is predicted to be on August 7th, and this was also revealed through the signs on July 23rd, by the way. Okay, so the first thing that came was the news story about the reposting of the hoax of the U.S. senator regarding the hoax that Jimmy Carter had died. This senator is from the 45th state. Well, we'll get to that in a second. The senator's name is Mike Lee. All right? What confirms that his name is prophetically significant is that in Hebrew gematria, his name equals 84, and so does the name Obama equal 84. And this is all about Obama, as are the vast majority of God's prophetic signs, incidentally, which is also, by the way, most people that claim to be watching for his signs miss them because they believe that the identity of the Antichrist is not knowable. But the great majority of God's signs, his end times warning signs, are about Barack Obama, as is this video here. All right, now also in English gematria, the name Mike Lee equals 360, which hints at 3 6s, and 666, the number of the Antichrist in Bible prophecy. Also in simple English gematria, which is A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, Mike Lee equals 2 times 30, which hints at 23, the number the basketball president wore in high school. The quickly reposting of the hoax of Mike Lee hints at the character in the movie Unforgiven. Mike Lee. Okay, the character's name is Mike Lee. He is also in the movie. He's known. His name, of course, is because the movie Unforgiven is a very famous Western movie. If you don't know, and he is the quick draw, Mike Lee, the quick gunslinger. But he also reacted quickly, if you will, to the prostitute that made fun of him and slashed her face. And this is the central plot of the movie. The plot of the movie is after the slashing of the prostitute's face, the prostitute's putting out a reward for the killing of Quick Mike, and that's how the other characters get involved in the movie. It is through this pursuit of the $1,000 that the prostitutes are putting up as a bounty for Quick Mike. Okay? All right, so back to July 23rd. This is how we begin this story that God is telling, and how all of this connects to the movie Unforgiven. which is symbolic of America being unforgiven and judgment, destruction coming. This is how it points to, or this is how this involves Clint Eastwood, which is the theme of this video, as you might have guessed from the title and thumbnail. Now, Clint Eastwood goes by doesn't go by, but he is known to be or called the King of Hollywood, and also the King of Western, the Western genre of movies. So, he is King symbolism, and that is the symbolism of Jimmy Carter, which is amazing proof that this is a prophetic sign for the state that confirms all of the analysis in the trail of signs that is leading to the predicted death of Jimmy Carter, because Jimmy Carter is king symbolism. As has been explained in the other videos, Jimmy Carter was inaugurated in 77, and he was the first of a series of 7 presidents that God is using as a parallel with the 7 kings in Bible prophecy, as explained in the other videos. The 7th king is Trump, who was inaugurated also in a year ending in 7 at the age of 70 years, 7 months and 7 days old. And then that was 77 days before he launched 59 missiles into the Middle East. And 59 is the 7th super prime number. Okay, and on and on. So the thing is, though, at Carter's funeral will be a chronological lining up of the former presidents on the pew in the National Cathedral. And this will be a major prophetic sign that is pointing to the chronology, the series of kings, the 7 kings and an 8th king in the book of Revelation. The 8th king, which is the parallel here that God is pointing to, as it says in the prophecy. Now, by the way, this is only a secondary fulfillment of this prophecy. The primary fulfillment of this 7 kings and 8th king prophecy, in fact, reveals Pope Francis and Rome. But that's another story. Getting back to the secondary fulfillment, on the pew, the 6th king will be sitting next to the 7th king in this parallel. Barack Obama will be sitting next to President Trump. All right, now the 8th king is said in the prophecy to have been, is not, and will be again. All right? Was, is not, and will be again. And that will be the exact thing that will be demonstrated at this moment of the funeral, when the 6th president was a president, is not a president, but will be again a president, a king, the Antichrist king. Okay, so that's why James Earl Carter, Jimmy Carter is relevant here, and that's why we have the King of Hollywood and King of Western sign here with Clint Eastwood. Okay? Now, where do we go next? Let's just read what happens here. So, also on this day, the New York Post reported that the Monterey County Health Department stated officially the cause of death of Clint Eastwood's wife, Christina Sandra. Okay? And her age was 61, which is the 18th prime number. That's why Barack Obama was born in 1961. 18 is the 61 is the 18th prime number, and 18 is 6 plus 6 plus 6, which hints at the Antichrist. Also, 18 hints at the date 8-1. It hints at a reverse, okay? So that hints at Jimmy Carter as well, the age. But the reason why this is relevant, Clint Eastwood's wife, it's extremely relevant, and this is getting into the amazing story here now. So, on this day, we are expecting Jimmy Carter signs. We have a quick mic sign, as in the Unforgiven movie, which, by the way, was a very famous movie and won 4 Oscars and cost $4.4 million, which hints at the 44th president. All right? And well, let's just finish this here. The movie made 159 million, and 159 is the 49th prime number, or maybe it's the 49th semi-prime number, I forget. Yeah, it's the 49th semi-prime number. And Kamala Harris is the 49th vice president. And Kamala Harris is a dirty Harris because of how she got her start in politics, which is widely known to have been through performing sexual favors for the mayor of San Francisco, making her a dirty Harris, a prostitute, which is why the plot of the movie Quick Mike is the prostitute, but also the Dirty Harry movies. Well, anyway, the profit of this movie was $144 million, and that's extremely a prophetic number from the book of Revelation that symbolizes the people that are faithful to God and will be rescued from the persecution of the Antichrist, who is the 44th president. All right, so back to what I was saying here about this report on July 23rd of the cause of death of the former wife. This actually hints at Clint Eastwood's former girlfriend and wife, Sandra Locke, for 12 years, if I recall. And they starred together in the 4th out of the 5 Dirty Harry movies, which was the only Dirty Harry movie that Clint Eastwood directed, which gives this more confirmation of this particular prophetic significance of the 4th out of 5 Dirty Harry movies. That's why the Senator Mike Lee, Quick Mike, is from the 45th state. Also on this same day, Elon Musk, in an interview with Jordan Peterson, said that he wasn't giving, contrary to what the media was saying, $45 million to the Trump campaign, and Trump is the 45th president. What's with all of these 45s here? This is confirming the 4th out of 5 Dirty Harry movies, which starred Sandra Locke, who was his girlfriend and basically wife at the time. Because they were living together, the reason why they weren't technically married is because of a strange thing with Sandra Locke, which is that she married this homosexual years before she became a big star in Hollywood, and never divorced him and never consummated the marriage. They were basically best friends and like brother and sister, and they supported each other, I guess, emotionally. And in any case, essentially she was Clint Eastwood's wife, all right? Okay, so Clint Eastwood's former wife, Sandra Locke. They starred together. Now, the thing is that once they met, and they met, I believe, during a, I forget which movie they met on. It's not relevant. But after they met, apparently Clint Eastwood was controlling, and she only, after that time, worked with Clint Eastwood. Really. Okay, so, and she starred as the female lead in the Sudden Impact movie, the 4th of the 5 Dirty Harry movies. And by the way, Dirty Harry is a detective from San Francisco, and Kamala Harris is also from San Francisco. She was the city attorney general, and she got that through being a Dirty Harris, okay, in San Francisco. So that's confirmation that what we were talking about, this Dirty Harry, is pointing to Dirty Harris. Okay, now, why don't we get this out of the way? The Dirty Harry movie made $150 million, and the first movie that made her famous, her first Hollywood role, got her an Oscar nomination. It was for the movie The Lonely Heart is a something hunter, or The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, or something like that. All right, and so she was the big new talk of the town after that. her winning the Oscar, I don't think she won it. I think she was just nominated. And I could be wrong, maybe she did win it. But for that movie, she was reported to have made $15,000, which is why it's a news story, because that's a small amount. But she was a newcomer to Hollywood, and it was just her first film. So she only supposedly made $15,000, but she said that was a lie from the studio, because she actually made a third of that. But because she was paid so little, they had to, I guess, inflate it a little bit. But so that's what makes it prophetic, though. It's an actual story. It's controversy. It's a story in itself about how much she made for her first role, in which she was nominated for an Oscar. And it was supposedly $15,000. Okay, that's the big story. It's one of the stories about her first. So this theme of Sandra Locke is really connected to the beginning of her career, as will be explained throughout this. The beginning of her career is this movie in which she was controversially only paid a small amount, but was said to have been paid $15,000. All right? And that's another second witness to the $150 million in which she, for the movie that was made in the movie that she starred in with Clint Eastwood. And this is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works, which is only being explained on this channel. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter, as the Bible says is required. And this is what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination and different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs. So that we have these second witnesses. And so the 15,000 pairs with the 15 million, and that is what confirms this 15 days connection to the predicted death of Dirty Harris in a plane crash. Okay, that's the reason for the 15 days from this Clint Eastwood Day of Signs, okay, if you will. And it's his through the death of Kamala Harris that the Antichrist king will become the president again, through her replacement with Michelle Obama first and then Barack Obama. And that's why the king of Hollywood and the king of Western, because Barack Obama is the 8th king. That's how it all ties to Jimmy Carter, because of this chronology of 7 kings that I explained. Okay. Now, let's see. Now now I've established the connection to Sandra Locke's first film. The reason why this is all relevant is because Sandra Locke created the biggest hoax. Not the biggest, sorry. She created a hoax when she got her first role. To get her role, she lied about her age. She shaved off 6 years from her age. And then, that was part of her getting the role of the first movie that made her famous and started her career and got her an Oscar nomination, okay? So again, like I'm saying, it's all about the start of the career, and it was started with a hoax. Okay, it was the hoax of her birth date. Clint Eastwood, her husband, future husband after that, is famous for saying that Barack Obama was the biggest hoax, or at the time he was saying it in the present tense. He said that Barack Obama is the biggest hoax on America in American history. Okay? And so that's why this is all important. This is how it all connects. Because on July 23rd, we had the hoax sign regarding the hoax of the death of Carter by the U.S. Senator Mike Lee, who quickly reposted, which hinted at Quick Mike, which brings us back to Clint Eastwood, who said that Barack Obama was the biggest hoax, who was married to Sandra Locke, who hoaxed the movie industry. Oh, and by the way, she kept up her hoax throughout her entire career and all throughout her public life after her career ended. In other words, until her death, no one knew her real age. And her hoax is about her birth date, And of course, Clint Eastwood is alluding to the hoax of Obama's birth location. It's all a big hoax. There's much more to the hoax of Barack Obama, and Clint Eastwood was referring to more than just the hoax of his birth date. Clint Eastwood is a wise person for saying that Barack Obama is the biggest hoax because it's the truth. For one thing, Barack Obama is a communist. Once a communist, always a communist, unless they have a life-changing repentance and conversion to Christianity and become a born-again Christian. Otherwise, once a communist, always a communist. And there is no doubt that Barack Obama was a communist and was a member of the May 19th Communist Organization. That's the name of the organization. That's a fact. And when this prediction comes to pass, make no mistake, this is the purpose of this prediction, to prove what I am saying here in this controversial thing. And believe me, I know far better than you the reason and purpose for this prediction that is from God, and the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction. The fact that Barack Obama is a communist is proven and confirmed through his big picture of signs, and when this prediction comes to pass, it will prove that this is God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections that is interconnected. It's all a big web of signs, and they all connect to each other. It'll be proven. That's the purpose of the prediction. It's to prove that Barack Obama isn't who he says he is. He got into politics for the purpose of subverting the American system. That's what communists do. But communists lie. They lie. Now, I don't know what happened with Barack Obama as the president. He definitely, though, behaved like someone who was undermining the system. He knew what he was doing, and he did all of these things setting up for what is coming. The reason why Barack Obama will become the president again, well, the reason why Biden shoplifted the referendum is through Obama. It's all Obama. The people that Obama installed were also communists. We are in the middle of a communist coup, a soft coup. It's underway as we speak. Now, what is a communist, though? That's a good question. You know, to say that Barack Obama is a communist, is he like a Stalinist? Is he a Trotskyite? Or, what does communism mean even, really, right? Well, the truth is communism isn't about an alternative economic model. Communism is about hatred rooted in Satan. That is the truth. It is a spiritual thing. And these people that are on the left, that are far left, the people that are on the left that aren't far left are what Stalin called the useful idiots. But the people like Obama hate America. That's the thing. They hate the system. They want to bring it down. They are rebellious. They are rebellious against God. They are anti-God. That's why he is the Antichrist. Okay? It's a spiritual thing. That's what communism really is. And furthermore, there's all kinds of evidence that Karl Marx was in fact literally a Satanist. But that's another story. Now, so that's the hoax. And God is proving this. The purpose of this prediction is to prove that Obama is a hoax. That's why July 23rd and the hoax, which connects with 15 days to the death of Kamala Harris and 9 days, as I'll explain why is relevant, to the death of Jimmy Carter on August 1st. Well, it's not complicated. We've established all of these 45s, the fourth of the 5 Dirty Harry movies, the 45th state senator, Elon Musk's 45 million for the 45th president. 45 is the 9th triangular number. And the number 9 in God's signs, which is the most important number in God's signs, from the Bible, the number 9 symbolizes God's judgment. 9 days is also 216 hours. Barack Obama was born on the 216th day of the calendar year, and 216 is 6 times 6 times 6. Okay, so that's the reason for the 9 days in a nutshell. But we also have all of this pointing to Sandra Locke, who shaved off 2 times 3 years in her hoax, which hints at the number that Barack Obama, the basketball president, wore in high school, 23, and was inaugurated in 09. God pairs 9 and 23 for this reason, to confirm his signs and connections. And if we think about it, a simple way in which he would provide a second witness for us is through pairing certain numbers together, such as 9 and 23. And I know this because I've been studying his big picture of science from morning till night for more than full-time hours for more than 6 years. Okay, so that's Sandra Locke. Now, let's continue this Sandra Locke discussion here, because there's this other movie in which Clint Eastwood starred with Sandra Locke as the main lead, and they're in an intimate relationship in both of these movies. And in both of these movies, Clint Eastwood plays a detective cop, and in both of these movies, both of these movies were directed by Clint Eastwood, which is why Sandra Locke is starring with him, because of nepotism. He wants to work with his girlfriend, and he's jealous that she will work with other people and might lose her, I suppose. So anyway, also in this movie, Sandra Locke plays a prostitute. So we have this theme of prostitute here. The plot of the movie in Unforgiven is about the prostitute. Sandra Locke plays a prostitute in this movie called Gauntlet. Okay, and in Bible prophecy, the 8th king is a prostitute. Sorry, the 7th king is the prostitute that rides the beast, the 8th king. Okay? So that's the reason. Now, I'm saying that Carter is a prophetic sign in general that points to the prophecy about the 7 kings followed by an 8th king. And this is how it ties to Jimmy Carter here. This plot of this movie, Gauntlet, is about the detective escorting the prostitute, who is a witness for a trial, from the 36th state. The number 36 is symbolic of the Antichrist. 666 is the Antichrist's number. 36 hints at 3 sixes. And it is also 6 times 6 and also 2 times 18, which is 6 plus 6 plus 6. And the 36th triangular number is 666. In a triangle of numbers, the last number in the 36th row is 666, and 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 all the way to 36 equals 666. The plot of the movie is the escort of the prostitute witness from the 36th state, Nevada, to the 48th state, Arizona. In fact, more precisely, the plot of the movie is of them entering the 48th state, which hints at the predicted 48th president, Barack Obama, the 8th king, which is why the release of Gauntlet was exactly 48 weeks after the inauguration of Jimmy Carter in 77, which began the 7 series of kings to the 8th king. Okay, that's amazing. The plot of the movie is about the 48th state, and it's exactly 48 weeks after Jimmy Carter. That's amazing confirmation of what we are talking about here, which is the connection between the king of Hollywood, the king of Western, and Jimmy Carter, who is king symbolism, and the signs that were expected in advance of July 23rd. Okay, this confirms it, this connection here. Now, 48 weeks is also 335 days. And 335 is the 108th semi-prime number, and 108 is 36 plus 36 plus 36. And God frequently repeats a number 3 times for emphasis of its symbolic meaning. And I just explained what 36 means. It hints at 666, the number of the Antichrist, the 48th president. That is also amazing. Now, the prophecy is, in fact, about 5 kings and leading to the 8th king. Literally, the prophecy speaks of the 5th king, 5 kings, and then a 6th and a 7th and an 8th king. which is why it is 580% of a year from the release of Gauntlet, in which Eastwood directed and starred Sandra Locke, to the other Eastwood directed and movie starring Sandra Locke and him, Sudden Impact, the Dirty Harry movie. Okay, so this 580% hints at the 5th through 8th King's prophecy. Okay, this isn't the only instance in which God has used the number 58 for this purpose. What confirms this too is that it connects to Jimmy Carter, who, as I just said, is all about pointing to this prophecy, the 5th through 8th Kings. Now, this is a side note. Well, it isn't really a side note because it does connect to July 23rd. So, anyway, Sudden Impact hints at the asteroid. This is a separate subject other than the death of Jimmy Carter. But the predicted date of the asteroid described in the book of Revelation that will hit Earth is exactly 490 months after the release of Sudden Impact. And that's astounding because 490 is a period of time in the most central prophecy in the Bible that regards the timing of the Antichrist and the end times. Okay, so that's very straightforward, so that's amazing. Now, the asteroid will hit 78 days after this date, which is pointing to all of what I'm saying, this prophecy about the 7th through 8th Kings. That's why 78 days, which is also 2 months and 16 days, which hints at 216, which is 6 times 6 times 6. And the 8th King, Barack Obama, was born on the 216th day of the calendar year. Okay. All right, now, let's get into some more juicy connections here. So, this hoax is also pointing to another upcoming hoax. The hoax of Barack Obama is one thing, but there's another hoax that is coming, which is the hoax of demons pretending to be aliens. That is predicted to begin on August 16th, 8 plus 8 plus 8 days after these signs that point to the number 45, and 45 is the 9th prime number, and God pairs the numbers 9 and 88 together in his signs to confirm his signs and connections. One reason being is that Trump trumpeted, the 45th president, trumpeted that his tower in lower Manhattan he called into Channel 9 News. Trump, in English, simple English gematria equals 88, and he called into Channel 9 News on 9/11 and mentioned, in other words, trumpeted that his tower on Wall Street had become the tallest tower in lower Manhattan. Okay, so anyway, it confirms that because of the number 9 here. All right, and 8 plus, but also the name Jesus in Greek is equal to 888 in Greek gematria. And the hoax about demons pretending to be aliens will be a test of faith for quote-unquote Christians, because it is impossible for aliens to exist, because if one has a biblical worldview, not only is the earth and man the center of God's creation, but God became a man in order to die for the sins of men. And that's why quote-unquote Christians that believe in the possibility of aliens aren't really Christians. Because obviously, God did not become an alien and hopscotch around the universe dying for the sins of other aliens on other planets. Okay? So, it's a test of one's worldview and their faith. Long story short. And that's why we have the connection which is symbolized by Jesus here. But also, this is 24 days, and Jimmy Carter was born in the year 24 and will die in the year 24. And G2424 in Strong's Greek Concordance is the word for Jesus. All right. Now, did I mention? Oh, I did. I forgot to mention this. This hoax of the quick Mike Lee, when he quickly reposted, was exactly 6 plus 6 plus 6 days after he did the same thing. And the news articles, the news stories on this day talk about how he did the same thing on this date, which is 6 plus 6 plus 6 days earlier. Which is, he quickly reposted another hoax, which was the hoax that Joe Biden had suffered a medical emergency on his Air Force One, which in turn hints at the emergency on Kamala Harris's Air Force plane when she is predicted to die in a plane crash on August 7th. 6 plus 6 plus 6 days, and then 9 days after. Or rather, I should say 6 plus 6 plus 6 days, and then 6 times 6 times 6 times 6 hours after this hoax about Joe Biden suffering an emergency on the Air Force One plane. So that's amazing too. All right, now the thing is that the hoax of the coming aliens, it ties to this hoax from the senator, which ties to the Sandra Locke hoax, and Clint Eastwood saying that Barack Obama was the biggest hoax in American history. Okay, so we're talking about the aliens hoax now, in the beginning of it on August 16th, which is the predicted date of it, which, by the way, I believe will be the date that Pope Francis will declare that aliens have arrived and made him the ambassador for the world, thus overnight giving him authority over other nations, making him the Antichrist. Well, anyway, July 23rd was exactly 272 weeks after this prophetic date here, which connects profoundly to the date of the release of the movie Unforgiven. Now, the reason why 272 weeks is relevant is that G272 in Strong's Greek Concordance is the word that means possession, and this event of demons pretending to be aliens is actually also demons crossing over from the demonic realm into the earthly realm in order to demonically possess people. And that's why this possession number of weeks here. Okay, that's what the demons and aliens will be about. It's all leading to mass demonic possession of those who take the mark of the Antichrist, which is the thing, and you know what I'm talking about, and that's leading to the mass demonic possession will be, the thing will be promoted by aliens. All right. Now, before I get into what happened on this date, we need to go to the Unforgiven movie again. This connection is 26 years and 9 months, which hints at 269, the 57th prime number, which hints at the date 5-7, which is what this connects to. But 5-7 hints at 5G. Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash in St. Louis near Cairo, Illinois, in Little Egypt, and the prophetic significance of that is explained in other videos, but Little Egypt hints at the king of Egypt, which in the Bible is symbolic of the Antichrist. Well, the city that the Antichrist is from, Chicago, connects to Cairo, Illinois with the I-57 highway. But 57 also hints at 5G, because G is the 7th letter, and it is 5G frequencies that will trigger what is inside the thing that has been put in people, the components, the self-assembling components, that will then engender delta brainwaves, which will trigger or facilitate demonic possession. So in other words, 5G is leading to demonic possession, which is why the number of weeks that hints at possession in turn connects to the day that aliens will begin their deception, the hoax. Okay. All right. So I think we've established this. Now, what happened on this date here was a prophetic sign involving the release of Barack Obama's anticipated autobiography, A Promised Land. All right. And let's see. It was a story about the delay of the publishing of the book. There's more that happened on this date, but the thing is that I've explained it so many other times in other videos. There's not really much point. Well, I've explained it a few other times, and including a recent video. So we'll leave it at that rather than get into it, because it really becomes something else. And anyway, this is enough, because the sign of Clint Eastwood is the published article of his interview right here, which connects to the news about the published date that's delayed of Barack Obama's A Promised Land. Okay? Now, the date of the article of the interview, which was only published, Clint Eastwood gave an interview to the newspaper for his small town in California, for which he was the mayor. And I think he was the mayor at the time of the interview. I could be wrong, though. But regardless, Clint Eastwood is importantly connected to this town, which is why the only newspaper of the town is important in this sign, which was the newspaper that published the interview. The story of which, of course, went national, but it was in the published interview that Clint Eastwood said that Barack Obama is the biggest hoax. But the reason why he gave this interview was because 4 + 4 days earlier, which hinted the 44th president, I forgot to label it here. Oops, I forgot to label these 2 dates here. Was the day of the infamous or famous speech that Clint Eastwood gave at the Republican National Convention, in which he spontaneously thought it would be a good idea to pretend to interview Barack Obama, with Barack Obama pretending that Barack Obama was sitting next to him in a chair. And the media mocked him for this. Okay, so that's why 7 days later he responded. Well, actually, no, 4 + 4 days later, because he was pretending to interview the 44th president. Okay, and so anyway, that's when he gave his interview about Barack Obama, calling him the biggest hoax, which is amazing because of his wife being part of a hoax and her shaving off 2 times 3 years, and Barack Obama, which is at 23, and Barack Obama is the 44th president. That in itself is a pairing of 23 and 44 that confirms the signs and connections. And God pairs 44 and 23 because the 44th president was the basketball president who wore jersey 23. Okay. Now, the convention was on the date 8/3, which hints at 3/8, which hints at this connection here. 8 + 8 + 8 days to the hoax of the aliens. But this is relevant because this is 9 + 11 years to this date here, which is 8/3. It's not 8/30, but that's enough because they're both 8/3s. And the connection here confirms this, the symbolism of the 9 + 11 years, because again, God's big picture of signs, his true big picture of signs, which is only being explained on this channel, requires a second witness to confirm the matter. And this 119% of a year connection okay, this is a typo. It's 1,190% of a year. Okay, so that hints at 9/11 also. God does this to hint at 9/11, and God pairs 9 and 11 together to confirm his signs and connections, because it hints at the big warning of judgment on 9/11. And also, Revelation 9/11, which is the passage in the Bible that symbolizes this coming mass demonic possession and demons crossing over from the demonic realm into the earthly realm. And Revelation 9/11 is about a king, the king of the bottomless pit, King Apollyon, the king of destruction, as it says literally in the passage. So that connects us to this king symbolism because it connects to the king of Hollywood and the king of Western. Revelation 9/11. So that's why the 9 + 11 years and then the 1,190% of a year to the king of Hollywood sign. All right? So this is amazing because this date here was the release in the one theater in Westwood, California. And we're talking about the movie directed by Eastwood that won 4 Oscar awards and cost $4.4 million. Well, so anyway, but it also hints at Brentwood, and Kamala Harris will be flying back to her mansion in Brentwood, California when she dies in a plane crash. So this is established here, this trail right here. Right, and now you know how it all literally precisely connects to the date that Clint Eastwood said that Obama is a hoax. And that date connects with 11 years, 10 months, and 16 days, which hints at H 1116 in Strong's Hebrew Concordance, which is the word Bama. which means, by the way, lightning. Because Jesus said in Luke 10:18, he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven. Barak Obama in Hebrew means lightning from heaven. Either Jesus, and Barak means lightning, Bama means high place. Sorry, yes, Bama means high place, doesn't mean lightning, sorry. Bama means high place, which in the Bible is a metaphor for heaven. And O, in the language Jesus spoke, was Aramaic, means from. And so Barack Obama means lightning from heaven. Either Jesus didn't know what he was saying when he said this, or he knew there would be a famous president named Barack Obama and said this anyway, or he was revealing the identity of the Antichrist, and obviously the latter option is the only one that makes any sense. Okay, this also hints at G 1116, which is the word Gomorrah, which was destroyed by fire from the sun. By fireballs. Okay. But this connection is also 1,188% of a year, and God uses the number 188 in his signs frequently because the 188th word in Strong's Hebrew Concordance is the word woe, ! Which is used in the context in the Bible of extreme judgment from God, which is what we were talking about here with these predictions that connect to the coming asteroid and the day that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash, etc., and the day that Jimmy Carter will die. Okay, and 1,188 hints at 188. I think we are coming up on the finish of this now. The thing is, too, that the day of Eastwood publishing his statement saying that Barack Obama is the biggest hoax in American history was 2 times 26 days, which hints at H226 in the Hebrew Concordance, which is the word that means prophetic sign, making this connection a prophetic sign, to the day of Hurricane Sandy. And that is relevant because of Eastwood's wife, Sandra Locke, who committed a hoax. Sandra Locke's original name is Sandra, which is what Hurricane Sandy hints at. This isn't the date of Hurricane Sandy. Oh, yes, it was. This was the day that Hurricane Sandy hit lower Manhattan and knocked out the power and flooded lower Manhattan, which was a prophetic sign, and that's why this connection here, because lower Manhattan is the location of the big judgment warning on 9/11, when 110 stories collapsed and cracked the foundation of Federal Hall on Wall Street, where George Washington was inaugurated, before walking down Wall Street into Trinity Chapel and consecrating the nation to God, saying that if the nation were to ever turn away from God, it would lose its divine protection and blessings. And that's why this chapel is known as the Miracle Chapel today, because it was the only building at ground zero that survived the falling debris without any damage or even a broken window. And that's why we have the 110 and 9, the 1109, in other words, percent of a year, to the connection to the date that Sandra Day O'Connor died. Now, I'll get back to this in a second, but the day that Hurricane Sandy hit lower Manhattan was 2 times 23 days to the day of the mass shooting in Sandy Hook. The famous shooting in Sandy Hook, Barack Obama said, was the worst day of his presidency. So the hoax president is connected to here because this was the worst day of his presidency, which was December 14th, 2012, which was exactly 4 plus 4 years before the biggest hoax in American history, which was the Thing, the mark of the Antichrist. The first American took the Thing, the mark of the Antichrist, on December 14th, 2020. The reason why this is relevant is because mass shootings in God's signs are symbolic of mass things. The things that come out of gun and go into people are symbolic of the things that come out of things and go into people that cause mass deaths. Both of them, the mass shootings and the mass thing, cause mass deaths. You follow me? You know what I'm talking about, the thing that you can't talk about. And by the way, I'll just leave it at that. So Sandy Hook connects to Hurricane Sandy. The 2 times 23 days, by the way, I forgot to mention, hints at 223, the 48th prime number. And Barack Obama is predicted to become the 48th president, which is why we have that, and then the connection of the 4 plus 4 years to the thing that mass shootings symbolize. Okay, now, the reason why the thing is a spiritual abomination, one reason is that, like all things, all of them, they use, and I'm going to use my words carefully here, material from babies that haven't been born yet. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. In the development of things, that's what's used. And that's a spiritual abomination. And by the way, mass shootings are judgment for abortions. And they have especially occurred, the school shootings, during the time in which the children of the baby boomers were in school, which is the peak of baby boomers' children in high school was when Columbine happened, and then the university shootings, the big ones, the famous ones, happened during the time that the baby boomers' children were in university, and that's because abortions were legalized for baby boomers. It is the murder of people's children is judgment for the condonement of these parents and everyone condoning the murder of unborn babies. And that's what's used in things, right? To get the material that's used in the development of things, you have to murder the unborn baby, which is why this all connects to Sandra Day O'Connor, who was the biggest hoax of President Reagan's presidency. His biggest mistake was nominating Sandra Day O'Connor. She was a hoax because Reagan thought that she would be, in other words, Roe would have been overturned many, many years ago had it not been for Sandra Day O'Connor, the hoax that President Reagan nominated for the Supreme Court. Okay, and this connects with 8 months and 7 days to the date 8/7, the date it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die, and she is the biggest promoter of abortion rights. She is the first official from the White House to have visited an abortion clinic. And she did so in her election campaign. And by the way, that was in the 32nd state, which hints at the 32nd prime number, 131, which in the concordance G131 is the word for blood disease, which is what one gets when they take the thing, because it is judgment for the murder of unborn babies. All right, now I think this entire diagram has now been explained. All right, there is a ton more that needs to be added here, some things that I forgot to mention, some very important things. Let's get the really big one out of the way first, which is that this 4th out of the 5 Dirty Harry movies, the only one that was directed by Clint Eastwood and the only one that also starred Sandra Locke, was also the most successful, the highest grossing Dirty Harry movie, which is further emphasis of this one standing out among the 5 Dirty Harry movies, which the point of this is pointing to the number 45. But, as was mentioned, we have these 45 signs here. Again, the hoax forwarded by Quick Mike Lee, from the 45th state, Elon Musk saying in his interview that he would not be giving $45 million to the Trump campaign, and Trump is the 45th president, okay? So we also, as I have explained in this video, through all of this, God is pointing to Clint Eastwood and specifically his relationship with Sandra Locke, who he starred with in the 4th out of 5 Dirty Harry movies. Now, I mentioned that this confirmed the 9 days because 45 is the 9th triangular number, but also 9 days is 4 plus 5 days. In fact, that's the really obvious plain as day connection here. It's 4 plus 5 days from these signs involving the King of Hollywood and the King of Western to the death of Carter, who I have explained is king symbolism. And speaking of which, I forgot to mention this, which is this connection to July 23rd, with 71 days from the day that Stephen King quoted Clint Eastwood and his quote went viral. Stephen King said, opinions, he tweeted this on his social media. He said in response to a critic, opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. I think Clint Eastwood said that. That was what he said. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. I think Eastwood said that. And so this ties everything together. It is amazing beyond words because, as was explained in other videos, 7/23, July 23rd, was pointed to in advance because of the signs that occurred on July 11th that involved Stephen King, the author of the movie and book The Shining, and the most referenced thing, one of the most referenced things in cinema is Room 237, which was a clue that the trail of signs regarding the death of Jimmy Carter that led to July 11th continued on to July 23rd. The date 7/23 hints at Room 237. In fact, outside of the US, 7/23 is written as 23/7. Also, 2 plus 3 plus 7 is 12 days, and from July 11th to July 23rd, it was 12 days. And so, in other words, we had been looking at July 23rd ahead of time because of Stephen King. And here we have this prophetic quote, a viral quote of Stephen King quoting Clint Eastwood. And again, it's all these movies that God is using. And we had the connection again from Stephen King, which the point was the movie The Shining, the death of Shelley Duvall on July 11th. And the signs again pointed to July 23rd. And now we are talking about more movie signs, but this time it's about Clint Eastwood. But this connection confirms this because, again, now we have a connection from The Shining, Stephen King, to July 23rd and Clint Eastwood through a viral quote that Stephen King recently made about a quote of Clint Eastwood's. The quote was made on May 13th, which is 71 days before July 23rd. And 71 is the 9 plus 11th prime number. It's the 20th prime number, and God uses this to hint at 9 plus 11, which hints at Revelation 9:11, which is the passage that symbolizes the coming mass demonic possession and the big hoax when demons exit the bottomless pit and enter the earthly realm, as described in Revelation chapter 9, which is symbolized by the king of the bottomless pit in Revelation 9:11. And that's appropriate because we are talking about Stephen King, the author of horror and demonic possession, etc. So this is Stephen King we are talking about, and we have a 9 plus 11 connection here to Clint Eastwood signs on July 23rd. And again, it's all relevant because of the signs on July 11th, which were Stephen King, The Shining signs about demonic possession. Because that is the plot of the movie, The Shining. It is about demonic possession. And speaking of demonic possession, this will be facilitated by the mark of the Antichrist, which is the thing And in God's prophetic big picture of signs, the number 22 is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist. The inverse of the mark of the Antichrist described in the book of Ezekiel would have been a Tav mark, a Tav letter, which was the last, or is the last letter in the Hebrew alphabet, and the 22nd letter. And the mark of the Antichrist is described in the last book of the Bible, which is the 22nd out of 22 books in the Bible that have a total of 22 chapters. And so the number 45, the reciprocal of 45, in other words, 1 divided by 45, is equal to 0.022 into infinity, and so it hints at 22. In other words, these signs here on July 23rd that involve the number 45 hint at the number 22, which in God's signs is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist. And again, this trail of signs right here at the bottom of this diagram is leading to the date of the mass possession, the symbolic beginning of it. I'm not saying that everyone is going to become demonically possessed on August 16th, but something symbolic will begin this process. Something very big will happen related to this on August 16th, a symbolic beginning of the demons crossing over into the earthly realm, in other words. And so that's another reason for the number 45 here. Another couple of connections I forgot to mention is that from the last day of Jimmy Carter in office, his exit, it is exactly 2,270 weeks to July 23rd. Again, it is being explained here, it is being the explanation in this video is confirming that this date, in fact, was a step in the trail of signs that is leading to the date it is predicted that Jimmy Carter will die 4 plus 5 days later after these signs involving the number 45. And that's why this is relevant. 2,270 hints at 227. And 227, for one thing, is the 49th prime number, and we are talking also about a connection to the date it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die, and Kamala Harris is the 49th vice president. Also, Jimmy Carter was inaugurated in the year 77, and then began this parallel of 7 kings, and 49 is 7 times 7. Okay, and also, yeah, actually, also 227 hints at 22 divided by 7, which is in mathematics shorthand for pi. It's the fraction that most closely approaches the number pi, and that's why it's used for shorthand. And it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in St. Louis, for which the area code is 314, which also hints at pi. And that's just the beginning of the story of the number pi and God's signs here. So anyway, this is very important. But also, I forgot to mention this. This, I believe it was Clint Eastwood's last movie. I could be mistaken, but if it isn't, it's his last movie he acted in. I'm pretty sure it's also the last movie he directed. The movie that was released on this date, December 10th, 2018, called The Mule. It stars him, and his character's name is Earl. And Jimmy Carter's full name is James Earl Carter. This is amazing. This is more astounding confirmation here of the connection between Clint Eastwood and Jimmy Carter. I already established a direct connection earlier in the video, which was this connection from the release of the movie Gauntlet, which the plot of which was about entering the 48th state, and it was released exactly 48 weeks after the prophetic inauguration of Jimmy Carter in 77. I already established that. And yeah, here we have another one because of the most recent movie starring Clint Eastwood, his character's name being Earl. And it also ties into James Earl Jones, which ties into James Earl Carter, and on and on. All right, so this, in other words, is very important. Now, in English gematria, Earl is equal to 216, which is 6 times 6 times 6, the number of the Antichrist. And in simple English gematria, Earl is equal to 36, which I believe I have already explained, maybe not, so I'll do it again. 36 is symbolic of 666 because it hints at 3 6s, but it is also 6 times 6 and also 2 times 18, which is 6 plus 6 plus 6, and the 36th triangular number, which in a triangle of numbers, the last number in the 36th row is 666, and 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 all the way up to 36 equals 666. In other words, this is Antichrist symbolism. Now, the mule confirms this. The name of the movie, the mule, hints at the donkey, which is the symbol for the Democrat Party, which is Antichrist spirit in itself, but the leader of that party, Barack Obama, is what's being pointed to here, who was born on the 216th day of the calendar year and is the Antichrist. Now, what is amazing about this too is that in Bible prophecy, in the most central prophecy, we have a symbolic period of time that regards the end times and the period of the Antichrist, and that number that symbolizes this is 2520. And in God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, which is only being explained on this channel, God uses variations of this number, combinations of 2 2s, a 0, and a 5 to hint at this. It took me quite a while to realize that God was actually doing this, but he's in fact doing this. And so this is one example of it. It is 2052 days, which again, as I'm saying, is a hint at this prophetic number, which, by the way, is a very interesting number because all of the numbers from 1 to 12 divide into it. It's like the super number, in other words, if you will. And so anyway, that's the connection here, which confirms this connection to July 23rd. That is this date that is pointing to with signs to Clint Eastwood. And then we have this connection to this last movie of Clint Eastwood. Okay, and also what's very important about this is because, as I'm saying in this video, all of this is pointing to specifically Sandra Locke and her hoax and Clint Eastwood's hoax, okay? They're calling Barack Obama the biggest hoax, etc. And what's amazing about this is that the release of this movie was one day after news broke of the death of Sandra Locke, which had been kept a secret for, I believe, almost 2 months or something like that. The news media didn't know about the death of Sandra Locke until one day before the release of Clint Eastwood's movie, which further confirms the connection between the two, Clint Eastwood and Sandra Locke. Their connection goes well beyond their relationship because after their breakup, they have been fighting for many years in court. And also, by the way, there's a big story about that. Part of the deal that Clint Eastwood promised Sandra Locke in order for her to drop the lawsuit, an agreement made under the table privately between the two, was that she would be given from the studio in Hollywood many years of opportunity to make movies, which never came to fruition. In other words, it was a ruse between the studio and Clint Eastwood to get Sandra Locke to go away. And Sandra Locke didn't care for that, and then she sued again and all this. It's a long story. But it goes towards this corruption theme. And by the way, in the movie The Gauntlet, speaking of the corruption, I forgot to mention, the plot of the movie involves 2 corrupt high-level political officials, which hints at the 2 antichrists in Bible prophecy that are high-level political officials, in a way, truly, literally, because Pope Francis will become political, and that's the point. He will, anyway, so the 2 antichrists are Barack Obama and Pope Francis. That's what's hinted at with the 2 political high-level corrupt officials in this movie. Also, this connects to, well, it doesn't connect, actually. I need to correct this. This is a typo. This is wrong. I kind of figured this was a stretch. I shouldn't have even talked about this because it was kind of a stretch anyway. And now I come to realize, recalculating this, that this connection is wrong. So please forgive me and forget all of the things that I said about this 580% of a year connection. But anyway, this other movie that they both starred in, Sandra Locke and Clint Eastwood, was also about a corrupt political high-level official, okay? Which is hinting at the Antichrist, and that's what this is all about, because Clint Eastwood said that Barack Obama, the Antichrist, is the biggest hoax in American history, and that's the point here. And again, it connects to the movie Unforgiven, because America is unforgiven. And again, I forgot to, this is a typo, I should have put in Unforgiven here in the diagram. All right. Well, anyway, the thing is, too, is that Sandra Locke's character in the movie Gauntlet, which, by the way, again, is about their entrance into the 48th state, and Barack Obama is predicted to be the 48th president and the Antichrist. Her name in the movie is Augustina Gus May. And the May hints at the month of the year, May, which hints at the month of the year, August, which is why Barack Obama was born in August, because it hints at Caesar Augustus, which is why Augustina. Okay, Augustina Gust. That's also hinted at, by the way, with the death, the news of the death of the news of the cause of death of Clint Eastwood's wife, Christina Sandra, which is hinted at with Christina, as in Christian Christ, but also Christina, which hints at Augustina, and the movie in which Clint Eastwood's other wife starred with him in. And the reason for all of this is because Augustina Gus hints at Augustus, okay? And that's because in 22 BC, Caesar Augustus took complete control of the food supply, and that's exactly what's going to happen with the Antichrist who was born in August, Barack Obama. He's going to take control of the food supply and restrict the buying and selling of the food as is described in Bible prophecy to only those who have taken the mark of the Antichrist. This will be enforced through digital currency. And that's the reason for Augustina Gus, and her surname in the movie being May. Okay. Now, I mentioned that her real name is Sandra. She changed it to Sandra. I forget the reason why she did that, but it was her full original name is Sandra Louise Smith. Louise hints at Lewis, one of these names that God has been using, these play on the word Louise or Lewis, etc., to point to Kamala Harris's predicted death in St. Louis. By the way, the thing that I didn't mention here on May 7th, 2019 that I thought it would be best to leave out involved a prophetic sign in St. Louis. It's a very, very important sign. Anyway, Kamala Harris is predicted to die in St. Louis, and that's why also that Sandra Louise Smith is involved in these signs. And again, it is 15 days, which, by the way, is also 7 plus 8 days. And that is also relevant because of the 7th through 8th kings, and it is through the death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash that the 8th king will become the president, which parallels this prophecy that I've been talking about, which is pointed to through Jimmy Carter, as I have explained. So 15 is also 7 plus 8, but again, it's relevant to Sandra Locke because this highest grossing Sandra Locke Dirty Harry movie made $150,000, but also her start of her career when she started the hoax about her age, her birth date, she was said to have been paid $15,000, which is 7 plus 8,000. Now, one other thing that I forgot to mention is the prophetic significance of the name Sandra. It's not, I can't believe I went through all this without explaining that, but the reason for Hurricane Sandy and Sandy Hook and Sandra Day O'Connor is because, as I said, it's all judgment for abortions, and Kamala Harris is the biggest abortion rights advocate, the first one from the White House to visit a abortion clinic, for example. And the name Sandra comes from Greek mythology, which means protector of humanity. If you can believe the irony here, because it is designed by God. Sandra Day O'Connor being the Supreme Court justice that prevented abortions from being outlawed many decades ago because of the hoax that she is, that fooled Ronald Reagan. And again, so, you know what? Wow. So Sandy Hook is known for the conspiracy theorists' hoax, calling it a hoax. No kidding. Wow. No kidding. So Sandra Locke, as I have explained, is prophetically about the hoax about her birth date, which hints at the hoax of Barack Obama and his birth location, which is what Clint Eastwood was alluding to when he said that Obama was the biggest hoax. And this connects to Sandy because of Sandra and Sandra, to the Sandy Hook shooting, which the conspiracy theorists call a hoax. In other words, Sandy Hook is known for, one of the things about Sandy Hook is that it is known for conspiracy theorists calling it a hoax, such as Alex Jones. And, incidentally, James Earl Jones is connected to all of this too, because he is predicted to die on the date that it is predicted that Jimmy Carter's funeral will be held at the National Cathedral on August 5th. And I wouldn't be surprised if Alex Jones connects to all of this, actually. That's very interesting. I'll have to look into that. Well, anyway, I think this does it for this video here. All right, I missed what I wanted to say a second time. This 15 days is 8 plus 7 days to the date 8/7. That's what I wanted to say. Okay, so we have this 15 days connection, but this is because of Sandra Locke and her controversial $15,000 that began her career with the hoax that she did, and also the prophetic significance of the fourth of the 5 Dirty Harry movies, the highest grossing one that grossed $150,000, which also hints at 8 plus 7. So, in other words, really, you could say that this 15 days is also, it should be labeled in the diagram as 8 plus 7 days to the date 8/7. Also, this 15 days hints at the 6th semi-prime number. The 6th semi-prime number is 15. God uses semi-prime numbers that are only divisible by 2 other prime numbers. And the 6th semi-prime number hints at 2 times 3. It also hints at the 2 times 3 years that Sandra Locke shaved off her age when she started her hoax. And so that's why this is relevant too, because this is connecting from these signs on July 23rd that point to Sandra Locke's hoax of 6 years, and 15 days is the 6th semi-prime number, which really hints at 2 times 3. And to confirm his big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, God frequently pairs certain numbers together, such as 9 and 23. And I know this because I've been studying his big picture of signs from morning until night for more than full-time hours for more than 6 years. And the reason is because the basketball president wore jersey 23 in high school and became the president in 2009. And so that's why 9 and 23 pair together to confirm signs and connections. We have here this 9 days connection and this 2 times 3rd semi-prime number connection. Furthermore, this 2 times 3rd semi-prime number connection stems from these signs on this date that involve the number 45, and 45 is the 9th triangular number. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived. And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. In the last days, many people who claim to be a follower of Christ will have spiritual experiences that are in reality demonic. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the BitChute.com or the Odyssey.com channel. And do it now in case you aren't able to later.